In today's video, I am creating some wintry watercolour mini paintings that you may like to include in your bullet journal or just have some fun creating. Hello to all you lovely people, I am Lynette Clark. Welcome back, or if you are new here, welcome to the channel. So I'm doing a wintry forest theme today, where I'll be doing some mini paintings of mountains, trees, plants and landscapes. So let's get started. I am using 300 GSMs of cold pressed watercolour paper, the Van Gogh watercolour palette and a couple of tubes of Daniel Smith's watercolour paints. Also my two favourite paintbrushes at the moment, which are the Vinci Top Spin synthetic paintbrushes, and they're in size 6 and 0. And then finally we're going to need a jar or a bowl of fresh clean water to dip our brushes into, and some kitchen paper to blot our brushes to get rid of any excess water. All of the materials that I have used in today's video I have listed in the description below in case you're interested. So when mixing up my colour palette today, each of the greens that I'm using I've added a little bit of brown to, just to mute down the vibrancy a little bit, and that way I'm going to end up with more earthy greens rather than really bright sort of like primary school colour greens. For the first painting I'm doing a wash first because I'm going to do a wet on wet technique. I'm thinking of creating a mountain sort of landscape, so it'll make it nice and misty and watery if I work the paint into the wet paper. So to create the mountain peak, I am just adding little dabs of very diluted Paynes grey to create the mountain forms. And before I add anything else to that, I need to let it dry, so I'm going to move on to the next painting. So for this one I wanted to lay down a wash of a light grey blue to create a nice frosty background, and then using a white Posca pen I am going to do a design over the top, obviously once the paint is fully dried. That's a good thing about doing these little mini paintings, is that you literally don't have to sit around watching paint dry. You can move on to something else whilst it's drying. So next thing I am going to show you guys how to do some deer antlers. So first I sketched them out. Don't worry too much about these being perfectly symmetrical, but just do the best you can. I then go in with this orangey brown paint from Daniel Smith. I can't remember the name, but as I said before, everything is listed in the description. So I started off with a paler brown first, and then I'm adding more darker layers on top towards the edges and the tips of the antlers, just to give it a bit more of a realistic look. So moving on to the next painting, using the same brown that was used with the antlers as a base, I've added a little bit more orange to it, and I'm now creating these sort of wintry branches with, you know, a little bit of berries on them, just to add a bit of warmth and tie the antlers in with the rest of the paintings and make it a little bit more cohesive. These are a really little simple painting, but I think, you know, they're really pretty too. So next up I'm going to do another wash for another background like I did with the frosty blue one earlier. I've gone for Paynes grey this time to create a darker background to draw an image on top of with the Posca paint pen. And I think having that darker background, the white pen will have more of a chance to show up against. So a bit concerned about the blue one I did earlier, and I might have to lay it on top. But on to the next one. I do enjoy doing a little watercolour wreath painting, and so for this one I am going to do sort of like a leafy twiggy design. I've added the brown that I've used for the antlers and the other twig sort of painting into the green to give me this foresty olivey green for the foliage. So I'm building up some leaves first, and then I'm going to start adding the twigs, where I'm just painting squiggly lines and following the outline of a circle of a lid that I drew around in pencil beforehand. Doing these little mini paintings are really good watercolour practice and quite therapeutic, and if you mess up there's no pressure, you can just cut them out and then still use the designs that you do like. Now my background circles are dry, I'm adding another layer of paint on top and making the colours a bit more vibrant, because once they were dry I noticed they weren't quite as vivid as I would like them to be. And the same applies to the mountain painting. Next up, I'm doing a fern. I stupidly forgot to hit the record button on the camera, so you've missed me doing the first wash of it. So for this fern, I wanted it to look slightly frosty, so I added a light blue into the green. So to create the shape of this fern, I'm working from the midrib of the leaf, and then with light feathery brush strokes, I'm pushing the paint outwards to create the pinnules. And then in places, dropping some more paint into the already wet paint so that it fans out and adds a little bit of shading and that beautiful watercolour-y look. And for this painting, I wanted to create a misty forest. So I'm laying down a wash first, and I'm going to let that partially dry and then work on my mountains. I wanted some trees at the bottom of my mountains, so to create that distant forest look, I'm just adding some really light brush strokes in green, and then I'm going to let that dry and carry on building up with that. But in the meantime, I'm going to go back to this foresty painting. So as I've just done with the mountains, I'm adding some light brush strokes to kind of replicate the look of trees. I'm not worrying too much about their form, because for them to appear that they're in the background, you want them to look kind of misty and out of focus, and the further things are away, the lighter they appear too. And then I'm building up the trees by adding different layers, letting each layer dry slightly before adding the next layer of trees. And with each layer, I'm making my trees a little bit more darker green. And then finally letting the paint pool towards the bottom of the trees to create shading. Now the circle of Paynes grey is dry, I am now adding a simple twig design with the white Posca pen. If you want to try this at home, don't worry about having one of these, they are a little bit pricey. You can use a white gel pen too. I really liked how this turned out. It's so simple to create, and I think it kind of looks like frosted branches against a grey wintry sky. And then just to finish it off, what's winter without a little bit of snow? Which I also add to the peaks of the mountains. I just wanted to add that the whole time that I have been working on my paintings, I haven't changed the water. Because the reason for this is I wanted to bring all the paintings together, and to be able to do that you need to use the same colour scheme, and clean water would kind of clear your palette. And that's it. There are a couple of designs that I didn't show on video because I stupidly forgot to hit the record button. You'll see it here with the one with the white trees against the blue background. But if you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments section below. Please like and share, and if you haven't already, then please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell and help this little channel grow. Thank you so much, guys. Take care.